Hey bookwalkers, and welcome back to Get Me a Library. Today is a reading vlog. I've never done a reading vlog before and I'm so excited to do it. It's the first time I'll be recording, editing and uploading one, so hopefully it'll be just as good as everyone else's, and it will sort of show you as much as I want about the reading vlog. Reading the whole series, all of the books that I've got, so that is the 5 books. I'm going to put them up here so you can see all the names of them, just in case you're not up to date. It is a reread, so there is going to be spoilers. I'm going to be anecdoting the book as well. I've never done that before, and as you can see there's no tabs, there's no writing, there's nothing in them, so I'm really looking forward to doing that. Again, it's going to be my first time, so I'm a bit nervous as to how to do it. I tend to remember quite a lot about the series because I love it so much, so it's going to be interesting to see what I think and what I remember and what my thoughts are, knowing exactly what's going to happen. I already know how I'm going to feel about most of this book anyway, because, spoiler, the character in it that she falls in love with, Tamlin, I'm not here for him. The first few times I reread it, well, the first time I read it, I was involved and I loved it and I was engrossed and it was really good. Second time I obviously knew what he was like. However, we hadn't got to the 4th and 5th book yet, so there was still a little bit of me that did kind of feel sorry for him or like him a little bit. But the 3rd time hated him, 4th time now hated him. I'm going to read you quickly what it's about, just in case you haven't read these books or you do know what it's about but you're not too sure, and I will write everything down here as well, so if you do want to just go straight and read it. So Feyre is a huntress. She thinks nothing of slaughtering a wolf to capture its prey, but like all mortals she fears what lingers mercilessly beyond the forest, and she will learn that taking the life of a magical creature comes at a high price. Imprisoned in an enchanted court in her enemy's kingdom, Feyre is free to roam but forbidden to escape. Her captor's body bears the scars of fighting and his face is always masked, but his piercing stare draws her even closer. As Feyre's feeling for Tamlin begin to burn through every warning she's been told about his kind, an ancient wicked shadow grows. Feyre must find a way to break a spell or lose her heart forever. So if you didn't know, but you do already know, I'm going to tell you again. The first one is based on a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So Feyre is Belle and Tamlin is the Beast, Prince Adam. And then the second one is a Hades and Persephone's retelling, which is my absolute favourite story ever. I won't tell you the names, I want to keep that a little bit of a spoiler free, because we don't know yet, do we? Because this is the first book we're reading. But the character in that is based on Hades and she is then based on the Persephone side of it. The third one isn't really based on anything because it's got both of them put together to create a bigger story. The second book is my absolute favourite, and for me it's very rare to like a second book. Usually it'll be the first book or the last book. If it's a big series it's a bit different, but because it's on a trilogy, even though there are more books, it started as a trilogy for me. When I read them at the beginning, I just thought it was going to be a trilogy. I didn't think it was going to be any more than that. And I know the 4th one is sort of like a spin-off, because what Sarah wanted to do, from what I can remember, is she had the first 3 books. The 4th one was to finish the main characters' stories, so that when she gets on to the 5th one, 6th one, 7th and 8th, I think, she wants to then focus on different characters from that book and write their story, which is so exciting. And so the 5th one is about one of the characters from this book, who's in all of them. But you first see her at the very beginning of this book, and then that's her character's story, from what goes on in the future. It's not like her background kind of thing. As I said before, it's completely new to me, so I've watched a lot of videos, I've googled a lot of stuff, I've been on Wikipedia, I've been on so many things about how to do it, and I remember from school how to annotate a book, but it's been a long time. I think the last one I remember doing was a poetry book, and although I enjoyed it, it wasn't my thing, so it was very much for school. So this is going to be fun, and because it's a book that I've read so many times and I absolutely love, and I love the world and the characters and everything except Tamlin. Even Tamlin's got some bits that I do like, because it's part of the story and the world building, isn't it? Without Tamlin a lot of the things wouldn't have happened. So yeah, as much as it's been a long time doing them, because this is such a big series, absolutely love it. I'm really looking forward to doing it. So I think that's also going to be a good way of anecdoting a book, and then when it gets to a point where I read a book that I haven't read and it's going to be my first time, I will kind of know what I'm doing. So I will see you guys soon when I do my next update, and yeah, until then, I can't wait. Bye. poses before, or I kind of just got on with it and then they were kind of revealed to me later on. But I'm going to go through that with you in a second, because it's been really interesting this time round. I mean, I'm only up to chapter 7 because that's where my 50-page marker was, but it seems to be different. I don't know, I'm seeing a completely different side of it this time. I'm becoming Feyre in the way I'm reading things and the way I'm thinking about it. I'm seeing it from her point of view a lot more than before, because I remember the first time I read it, it was like, I am Feyre, but I'm like, so like, oh my god, like I am Feyre, I don't know what's going on. Whereas this time it's kind of like, I know who Feyre is, so it's helping me understand stuff. So for example, I know who she is and what she's been through, so when I'm reading stuff about what she's been through, like her past and her mum and her dad and her sisters and where they live, I already know that, so I'm already Feyre, if that makes sense. Whereas all the other times I've not been Feyre, but this time I'm actually Feyre, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. It's very different. Okay, so I feel angry with these 7 chapters than I felt reading certain parts later on about Tamlin. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be spoiling stuff, I don't know if I'm not going to be spoiling stuff, I'm just going to read and talk about it because I don't know. I mean, okay, right, I will let you know if it's kind of like a spoiler if you haven't like read this yet, because I'm kind of going in not knowing what I've read, if that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling a little bit because this is the first time I've done the vlog after I've read a page, whereas the first bit was just introducing it. Okay, alright, so where's my first post-it? Okay, so the first page I did mark one thing. I'm not going to read everything that I've marked, because some things later on are going to get a bit more personal or a bit more, I don't know, you might not need to know it because you might already know, but it's just for me, just to sort of let you know what I've been doing. So the first one I've done is Protheum, where no mortals would dare go, not unless they had a death wish. So first of all, first page, we're being introduced to this place where they live, where the Fae are from. And it's saying that no mortal would ever go there unless they have a death wish. And as we know, she does go there. And then it's like, oh, okay, why do they have a death wish? What is so bad being over there? My first post-it note that I wrote, I don't even know where to start. I really don't. I feel like when I got to my 50-page marker, I put, I'm so angry at Nesta and Elaine and her father, but I also loved seeing the first part of this book and being introduced into the world. And there was one chapter specifically that I really enjoyed because it was the first introduction of the Beast, and it's the first part of the Beauty and the Beast retelling that this book is based on. I feel like I've written so much and I feel like I've gone mind to mind because I'm just so angry at Nesta. Like, this time round, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I knew Nesta was horrible and I knew she was selfish and I knew she didn't care about her sister Feyre. I knew that it was literally just all about her and Elaine. She didn't even care about the father. And although when we dig a little bit deep into her father, I do get why she was so angry at him and hated him so much. But when you think about the fact that it happened to Elaine as well, that it happened to Feyre as well, it doesn't give Nesta the right to be that angry. Not when you see Elaine trying to do certain things for her father, and you see that Feyre is looking after them all. We do find out that Feyre did promise her mother on her dying bed that she would look after them all, so it's something that Feyre has been burdened to do. And I do understand that she does have that loyalty for that. However, I do think because of the type of person Feyre is, she still would have stepped up and everything still would have happened, except I think that she might not have bit back. Sorry, she might have bit back a little bit more if it wasn't a promise for her mother. So as we start to get into the book, within the first chapter, I've already written something down. So it's a sad moment for me, but it's also an important moment. So Feyre is travelling through the forest and she's trying to find food for them in winter. And usually she'll find like deer and venison and stuff. But this time round she sees a deer and she's thinking, great, I'm going to kill this deer, this is going to feed us for however long. But then she sees a wolf coming over and she's like, oh my god, what do I do? If I kill the deer, the wolf can come to me. If I let the wolf kill the deer, I might not have a deer. So what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to either let it go or kill the wolf. So she decides to kill the wolf. And I'm not talking about any old wolf. This is a gigantic wolf. This is like, you are a fey wolf. Like, this wolf is humongous. For her to kill this wolf in the end, she has got strength. So she gets out her ash arrow, the only one she's got. She shoots the wolf right in the eye, and he goes down. He's dead. So she then kills the deer. Well, sorry, the wolf has actually killed the deer. She's allowed him to sort of like grab the throat, and she shot the wolf. So now she's left with the deer and the wolf. She takes the pelt back home, and this is how the story starts. So in one instance, she's talking about how she wishes that her sisters were married and then it would only be her and her father, and then that way they'd have enough food to go around because it would only be 2 mouths to feed. And then they'd have enough money when she sells parts of the deer that she's not going to eat. She could sell those bits for money, and they'd have enough money to go round, and she could maybe buy some paints, and that's her hobby. That's the one thing that she loves doing. And to me, it just shows what kind of sister she is and what kind of caring person she is. It's not about getting her sisters rid and getting them married off so they can be happy. It's not just that. It's also the fact that she's thinking logically, like, without my sisters, if they're married and they're happy and they're getting fed in their own way, that way I can only worry about myself and father, which is easier. It's just one deer. I don't know how long it can go round if it was just the 2 of them, but they're struggling with the 4 of them, and to me it just shows that she cares that much, and it's already at the beginning, and she's not thinking about herself getting married and being fed and not having to like look after herself and being like, you know, happy. She's thinking about her sisters and she's wanting them to be married and not herself. She doesn't care for her own happiness, basically. Like, the small happiness she has is the paint, and she could do amazing things with that. But currently they don't have the money to do that, so the one small hobby that she's got, she's wishing that she was able to do that. And it's just quite sad, really, like, that there's one thing in the world that she wants, and that's just a piece of paint. And it's just sad, especially when you know who Feyre is later on, and you start to feel for her. And like I'm saying, this is the first time I've really been Feyre completely. Like, I have been Feyre obviously because it's from her point of view, but it's the first time that I think I truly am her. And the more I read into it, the more I know I'm gonna get heartbroken and feel every emotion she doesn't even know I'm thinking about it. And I just know what's out there in the future and the sadness she's gonna face. I already feel like I'm crying now, but yeah, I just love it. I think it's so great. Another important thing to remember later on is that Fae hate iron, and ashwood is made. It was the ashwood that made their immortal healing magic floater long enough for humans to make a killing blow, or so the legend has claimed. So I put in here things that are important later on to find out about Fae. So I've always known that there's certain things that are going to kill mythical creatures and whatnot, like vampires with garlic, vampires with a dagger to the heart, werewolves with oh my god, what is werewolves? Silver. So things like that are gonna kill them, basically. Like, everyone's got a weakness, Superman, kryptonite, like that's always been a case. And with Fae hating iron and ash arrows, like there's things that they obviously have a fear of, or things that can take them down in one blow. And these little things I've marked, even though I know it because of the future and the books and knowing things like that, there's a couple of things in here that I might have missed, or it's just interesting just to sort of see these little Easter eggs beforehand, or these little snippets of information going into it for the first time, because again, we are Feyre this time, or I'm Feyre this time, and I'm understanding more about what she knows and what she's thinking and going on. Another big thing that I got really angry at is that Feyre doesn't see anymore that her sisters don't care. She's got to a point now, she's reached in her life, she's 19 years old, and she's reached it where her sisters don't care about her, and it doesn't faze her anymore. Like, don't get me wrong, in the book you do see that she is upset by certain actions, which we'll get to in a second, like at the end of the 7 chapters, but you do see that, and in the books you start to see that she don't care no more. Like, it doesn't bother her as much as it has done, or it should do. As we develop in the book, I know that there are moments where she does still care, because that's the type of person she is, but to get to a stage where you're just like, it doesn't bother me anymore. I mean, I know that. We all know that we've got to stages in life where things just don't bother us anymore. But that moment that you do realise it is sad because everything that you did get upset with, you don't care anymore. And it's like, should I continue to care? Because that's what humans do, and she is mortal. Is that something I still should care for? Or is it better not to? I mean, she's a mortal who's going to have, what, she's 19. The fact that they're not eating properly, the fact that they're starving, ideally, what, another 20 years maybe? I don't know. So she's not looking at a really long, exciting life like the Fae would have. So it's like, does she not worry about these things because her life is so short compared to them? Like, is she going to hold a grudge? And it's just like, there's all these emotions about it. And it is quite sad. So much she doesn't even get fazed by it anymore. She tries to do the right thing by them and help, but doesn't even get a thank you. So you've got her sister Elaine, who only does something nice for Feyre with the paints, like a small gesture, because she knows that Feyre loves painting. Like, is it enough? So Feyre obviously hunts the deer or whatever rabbit she can find. She skins it, she creates the food for them or whatever, and then whatever she can sell on, she sells on for money. And by using that money, she's then able to get things that they need. And occasionally, if she gets enough, she'll give some to her sisters, and they'll go out and buy what they want. And one occasion, Elaine goes out and buys 3 paint colours, a blue one, a red one and a yellow one, and she buys those for Feyre, and they're probably only tiny, only small little paints, and Feyre is able to decorate their wardrobe, chest of drawers in their room. And she paints some lovely spring flowers for her sister Elaine, she paints some fire flames for her sister Nesta, and she paints the night sky for herself. And she does this to make what little they have look lovely, and Elaine was a part of that. Elaine did help to give her something, but is that enough? Like, in the book so far, we don't see anything that Nesta does for Feyre at all. You only see what she does for herself and Elaine. Obviously Feyre's a little bit higher up there than her father, but the way she treats Feyre and her father are just disgusting, and it makes me so angry. And it's like, Feyre was going out there and she's hunting, and she's literally just killed a wolf. Like, what if that wolf had killed her? What would the sisters do without her? Like, they don't even help her. Like, I'm going to get to that bit now, because like, Nesta is just so rude and ungrateful. She doesn't help Feyre. She only does things when she's begged and Nesta wants something, and after Elaine has asked her. Like, she's very selfish, and it's like, what would she do? What would they do without her? Like, she literally is the only reason why they're still alive now. Like, she's 19 years old. Like, what the hell? So her father he owed these guys money, and he lost like an investment. So they came round to take the money or whatever, and they beat him in that time, and Feyre tried to stop it, and because of that he hurt his legs, so he's unable to work. So since that time, Feyre's got that bow and arrow, and she's learned how to hunt. And it's just like the ungratefulness of Nesta especially. Like, how can you be that naive to see your sister going out there day and night, like, to provide for you, when it's a risk? Like, it's freezing cold, you can get frostbite, you could die, and they're just letting her do it. And then when she comes home, you've got Nesta saying stuff like, take off that dirty cloak, you smell, you're disgusting. Like, thanks, you know, I've just literally provided for you and you're treating me like that. Now, I did notice one thing, that although I noticed before, it's only because of what I know that I'm like, is this an Easter egg? Is this a sign? And I think it might be. So this is a spoiler. In the future, we find out who Feyre's soulmate is, and it's linked to what she's painted on the chest of drawers. So she's painted a night sky, so if that can give you an indication. So she painted flowers for Elaine, and we find out later that Elaine's soulmate, well, her mate, is Lucien, and Lucien's from the Spring Court. And we find out that Nesta, who's was painted to have like fire flames, she is going to be mated with Cassian. But before we get to Elaine, because Elaine's one's quite interesting, what I think, Nesta went into the cauldron, and that's how her powers, and that's how she became Fae. And cauldrons boil on fire, and she has the silver flame. So it's like, is it a symbol of her becoming herself, becoming into herself, and linked to Cassian, or is it about the cauldron? But with Elaine's, so Elaine is on the spring court, and so hear me out. Elaine's got the spring flowers, okay, and Lucian is from the spring court. Originally he's from the autumn court, but he's from the spring court. So are the flowers linking her to Lucian, who we do find out is her mate, or, okay, are they linking to Tamlin of the spring court? Now, I've always had this theory, and it's not been from when I first read about Elaine, it was as the book developed. Elaine loves flowers and gardening and anything that I would say comes with spring, because that's when flowers bloom. So is she going to end up with Tamlin? Now the only reason I think that is because the flowers, okay, first of all, the fact that she loves gardening, the fact that everyone has their own court, so I love the night court, and if I could pick any court it would be the night court. I do love the autumn court because I love autumn and I love Halloween, but I do love winter, so I feel like those three courts would be my favourites, but the night court is the one that I would always have wanted to be with, even if the story didn't take place there. Even if I didn't love Rhysand and all of like the inner court, I still think that I would pick the night court. Elaine, I know for a fact, would pick the spring court because that's the place that she loves the most. That's what she loves doing, gardening and spring and flowers and roses and lilies and everything. So what if her place would be the spring court? So let's just say she becomes an ambassador for the spring court, or she has to go and do dwellings and dealings and whatever over there. She's going to go there and she's going to fall in love with the place. And who's from there? Tamlin. Now, I'm not saying I want Elaine to be with Tamlin. I don't like Tamlin at all. Maybe she could be the thing that helps him to bloom and helps him to be better. Maybe they are supposed to be together, maybe not. We obviously have the whole problem with Lucian being her soulmate and so on, so maybe it won't happen, but I always had this theory that Elaine should be in the spring court and maybe she could help Tamlin be better. I don't know, but the fact that there is flowers on her chest of drawers and it symbolises Elaine, it just seems a little bit too good to be true. A couple of moments in here that made me really angry. So stuff like Nesta crinkled her nose with a sniff. You stink like a pig covered in its own filth. Can you at least try to pretend that you're not an ignorant peasant? They never commented on it. I don't know why they expected them to when they don't comment on the fact that she painted their chest of drawers. You have the thing here where she says, "You're just a half-wild beast with the nerve to bark orders all hours of day and night." Rolling in the hay like an animal. Like, Nesta has this vileness about her that she's so nasty towards Feyre, and I really don't understand why. I mean, we might find out later on in the books, but she has this hatred for her for no apparent reason whatsoever. And Nesta has got this way about her where she could literally defend you, she could literally be your best friend, like she could literally be on your side and she could get things done just by her snare and the way she is about things and how nasty she can be. So why would she not want to support Feyre? Why would she not want to actually do well by being how she is but caring for her family? Like, I don't get it. And the way Sarah's written Nesta, I mean, once we get to where I am now, chapter 7, we don't really hear from Nesta now until a bit later on, but you still have the hatred that Nesta has for her, the way that Feyre will say a certain thing in her head about Nesta, or like, you'll remember what Nesta was like, and it's just horrible. Like, how can you be so nasty to someone who, I don't know, who's there for you and helps you? Like, she's just horrible. So the reason I love chapter 4, well, it's not my favourite chapter in the whole book, but the reason I like chapter 4 is this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and this is the first time that we are actually going to be talking about Beauty and the Beast. It's the first time in the book so far that there are snippets of it. So it's the first scene for me. So in the original Beauty and the Beast, when it was written, the same story applies, like the father was going around and he like took the roses and went back to the house. But Belle had two sisters. I think it was two sisters. She had two sisters and their father, and they all lived together on their own. And when the Beast came to get the debt that his father had owed him from stealing the roses, he bursts in the exact same way Tamlin does. Her sisters are there cowering in the corner, and he takes Belle because she offers herself to protect her father, whereas the sisters don't. Now, the sisters aren't necessarily the villain in the story, whereas in this one Nesta is. However, Feyre does go forward a lot like what Belle does. It's the first indication of the beast and Belle, and obviously the beast does turn up in his beast form, because that is, I think the light's better now, because his beast form is the only form that he has, because obviously she has to break the spell. So in this case Tamlin has a beast form as well as the masked form. So yeah, it's really exciting to read this in here. There's more that annoys me in this chapter and makes me fuming towards Nesta again. Feyre gets up and defends her father, because he's like, you know, trying to get up and be like, who are you? Why are you in my house? Kind of thing. I don't know what that accent was. Nesta and Elaine are just cowering in the corner. Nesta's standing in front of Elaine, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like, you're not defending your sister. Feyre gets up to try and protect her home and her family, even though, like, she's terrified herself. She admits that she's the one that's done all of this, and you've just still got Nesta standing there hiding Elaine behind her. Like, her first thought is to protect Elaine. And maybe it's like a sisterly thing, like she knows Feyre can defend herself, or she knows Elaine can't. But it's kind of like, the way you see her do it, it really upsets me. But yeah, I just got so angry about it. Like, her father does care. Maybe his lack of trying beforehand was where he was embarrassed, and he just got used to the fact that she was going out there, and he just got, not lazy, but he just got tired and fed up, and he couldn't do anything. So he just sits there with his wood carvings. Like, maybe, I don't know, the more I hate Feyre and the more I hate Nesta, the more I like her dad, and I kind of see his point of view now. I kind of see why perhaps he was like that, why he, I don't know, why he wasn't able to help Feyre as much as he could have done. Like, and stuff like this. Like, I turned to my father, his eyes glistening, so I glanced at the few cabinets we had, faded 2 yellow daffodils curling over the handles, and just like, Feyre and my father breathed, but I continued as I fastened my coat. I finally looked at my father again, allowed myself to memorise the lines on his face. My eyes stung. My father nodded, covering his hand with his mouth. And then he says stuff like, "You're always too good for here, Feyre, too good for us, too good for everyone." He squeezed my hand. "If you ever escape, ever convince them that you pay the debt, don't return, don't ever come back. You go somewhere new and you make a name for yourself." And I'm just like, oh god. Like, she's too good, and I know that if she could, she would have taken him with her, and I don't know, there's just a lot more to it than, I don't know, there's just a lot more to it than just reading that he wasn't there and didn't look after her. Like, I don't know, there's a lot more to it. He didn't necessarily mean to be the way he was. It wasn't on purpose, I think. And I don't know, I'm feeling emotional towards it. I don't know, it's just emotional. Like, I'm proper getting like emotional about it. I didn't think I was gonna get like this. Like, reading it, I was like, I'm feeling all these things, but then you just kind of forget about it and keep reading. But where I'm actually taking the time to like write stuff down, my god, this is gonna be a hard series. How I'm summing it up then is I'm just angry at Nesta, I'm angry at Elaine, more angry at Nesta, but I'm also, I don't know, like, I'm very angry at Nesta. Like, I will always forever be angry at Nesta, regardless of whether she redeems herself. There's always going to be something that I'm going to hate for her. I've learnt that Elaine is probably worse in a way because she's so naive. She does little nice things for Nesta and for Elaine. Elaine does little nice things for Feyre, like getting her paints and stuff, and getting a couple of things for her father, like some tools for the wood carvings. But at the end of the day, is that more sneaky because she's acting all nice, or she's doing nice little things, but she's being so naive to what's going on around her? I don't know. At least Nesta's a bit more upfront about it. Elaine's kind of in the background, and I think that's why I never really cared too much about Elaine. Like, she plays a big part in it later on, but I don't know, something about her that bugs me more than Nesta, and I don't know whether it's just the naiveness about her, or if it's something more to it. And I think, I don't know, we need to get a bit more into Elaine. But what I have learned is that I don't hate Feyre's father. Like, I'm annoyed at him. Like, there's been a lot of moments in my life where I've been annoyed at him, but I don't hate him. I don't hate him. And to finally sum it all up, I am going to be Feyre in this, and I'm going to feel so many emotions, and this is already like 40 minutes, and I'm going to have to like cut it all up, and I don't know how this is going to go. This is 40 minutes and I've only read 7 chapters. I mean, what the hell? I'm going to have to like sum this up a bit quicker, but I feel like there's a lot to it, and I've dived in a lot to it about it and everything. So yeah, I'll see you guys for the next update. I don't know how I'm going to cut and paste this. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. tired. I've just got back from work. I've had a long week so far, so I've got one more day and then I'm off for 2. But until then, I wanted to try and do a quick review on the last 50 pages. So in this one we find out that Tamlin is actually really trying to help Feyre. So he's actually protecting her family a lot more than she thought. He said that her family is well taken care of, but she probably just thought we gave her a little bit of money, a little bit of food, but she doesn't know to the full extent yet how well he's looked after her. But he does say, your family is alive and well cared for. You think so low of fairies that you believe I'd take their any source of income and nourishment and not replace it. And then she says, you know, I swear, like you swear it, fairies can't lie. He's like, I want everything that I am and possess. There was a funny, it's not funny in ha, it's just funny like, why do they care funny? So I wrote, actually, I forgot about this, when they start asking Feyre about her village and about where she's from, they start asking her if she's with anybody, if she loves anyone, if there's ever been anyone, blah blah blah. Like there's lines like, I was close with a man back in my village, are you in love with this man, and do you love anyone else? Is that really what you care? They care to know me. Why bother to like ask? Like, why do you care? And it's funny because, spoiler, obviously if you've not read the book, but Tamlin like has to fall in love with, or has to get immortal to love a fairy. So it's like with Beauty and the Beast, he wants her to break the curse. So Feyre is part of that. So to get in Feyre on their side, by getting Feyre to be a part of his world in like a romantic way, he needs to make sure that she's going to be able to fall in love with him. And if she's in love with a mortal back home, then she's not going to fall in love with Tamlin, is it? So that's why they care. But it's just funny because in that moment she's just like, why do you care? Like, why do you care if I'm with someone or care about someone else? Like, it's nothing to do with you. And I just thought that was quite funny. This is the first time we get introduced to the idea of the surreal, and I love the surreal. And there's so many memes out there and images like Feyre and the Shirelle is like the Gossip Girls of Prithian and how they become best friends, and there's all this kind of stuff. But it's the first time we're introduced to the Shirelle. My first funny thing is Lucian, of course. Do you ever stop being so serious and dull? Do you ever stop being a prick? I snapped back. Dead. Really, truly, I should have been dead for that. But Lucian grinned at me. Much better. Alas, it seemed had not been wrong. So it's the first time that he kind of accepts Feyre being a bit rude to him, and all he does is just laugh. Like, he's got that personality where like he can be nasty and funny at the same time, and all he needs is you to just literally give it back, and he's just your friend. Well, not a friend at this point, but I really like Lucian. I really do. I think he's funny. So yeah, it was no surprise my first funny moment was him. Like when I wrote my tab cards to be like orange is funny, I was like, it's gonna be Lucian. Lucian's gonna be the first thing that's funny, because no matter what, no matter how funny Feyre is, Lucian is going to be the one that's going to get the first tab. And Feyre hasn't done anything funny yet, because she is funny. She's had her moments already, but this is the first time I'm like, yes. Like, you can literally just give it back to Lucian and it will just be fun. Feyre thinks her dad has come to rescue her, and it's very much another Beauty and the Beast moment, because this is what Belle's father tries to do. He tries to come and save Belle. Someone lurked by the ledges, looking towards me. Not a fairy, but a man. My father had come to take me, to save me. Whatever benefits Tamlin had given him upon my departure couldn't be too tempting then. Perhaps he had a ship prepared to take us far, far away. Maybe he had sold the cottage and got enough money to set us up at a new place, a new continent. My father, my crippled, broken down father, had come. So at this point, Feyre is like, oh my god, my dad is here. He's literally here to save me. She wishes and she hopes that her father has come. It's just so sad, like the pain, like the fact that he has literally travelled all the way through the wall, the part of Springcourt, to get to where she is. He's just kept walking through monsters, like the boogie's there, like the idea of the surreal is there, like all these other creatures that Tamlin fights, and like other fae, and you know, it's just horrible, like thought that he travelled this way on his own just to save her, and then you find out it's not even him, it's just one of the monsters like playing a trick on her. Finally, before we go on to my little summary of it, the last sad thing that I had was when Feyre, whether she hunted the wolf for a reason, we know she did, I'm completely on her side with this, she always felt a little bit bad when she realised, but this is the first time that she turns around and she's like, I actually feel bad, like I feel so sorry for what has happened. She has like a nightmare about a wolf in the snow, about being a man, about the fact that she's hunted him. And it was his skin that I held in my hands, and I threw myself awake. So she wakes up from this dream, she realises it's real, bile sting in her throat. Although she's saving her family, what she's feeling is regret from killing a wolf. Favour is upset about what she had done, although she did it for the right reason. She still obviously killed someone. So my summary is we start to learn more about Spring Court, the curse, the blight, Lucy and Tamlin and the creatures there. In the kingdom we learn that Feyre has regret and remorse for killing a Fae, and being living, and that she did it for the right reasons, and she knew it could have been Fae, but still, or something to do with the Fae courts. Also it's very sad that she thought her father would come to save her. Her crippled father was showing that he cared, but really he wasn't there. I feel like it's a good 50 chapters set in the next pace. It's just still quite sad and quite raw to her, and I think the next 50 pages, I know what's going to happen. I think a little bit the next 50 pages before we get to her going back. There's 408, so we've still got about 300 to go. So if I'm right, it'll be another 100 before she goes back home, before we go to Under the Mountains, which is what I can't wait to go to. So I did that. Yes, so I'm not as emotional this time. I'm not as angry as I was, but I've still got a lot of sad stuff. When I was anecdoting it, I was getting very, very sad about the father thing. But now I'm reading it back, I've calmed down a little bit. I'll see you guys soon. I've read another 50 chapters, and I've stopped at, 50 pages, and I've stopped at chapter 17. So that's where we are at the moment in this vlog. I feel like these pages we've learned a lot more about the world, about Feyre, about Tamlin, about Lucian, about the creatures. I mean, at this point she's just met the SOOOOO, she's found out a little bit of information from the SOOOOO. She's learned about how Prythian was made. She's learned about how the courts have their High Lords, about the fact that Tamlin is a High Lord, about the other side of Prythian. So you don't just have the courts, we've also got the other side from the map. So we know about all Prythian and Highborn, we've learned that already. This time we're learning about this side. So we've then got the mortal lands down below, and we've got all the fairy realms up the top. So we've now learned that, whereas before we'd only learned about Prythian. I feel like we've had some ups and downs in this since last time. I mean, if you look at my colour code, right, I've got a lot more funny moments in this one, whereas before I only had one. My funny is orange, by the way. We've got 2 funnies in here. Quite a lot more sad. Not any angry moments, so my angry is green. I haven't had any angry in these 50 pages. Okay, so let's go through it and have like a little bit of a recap. There was quite a few little scenes in here that I put eek to, and BB retelling. So there's a few little things in here about Beauty and the Beast. He basically sorts out the library, the study for her, and that's in Beauty and the Beast. There's also a scene in here where he saves her from the Naga, and when she's out trying to find the SOOOOO, and he protects her, and he's in like his beast form, and the Naga are sort of seen as like the wolves in the Beauty and the Beast. When Belle goes off on the horse in the snow, and the wolves chase her and try to kill her, and Beast comes roaring out and saves her and cuts himself, and she looks after him, and then he's like, "Rah, get away from me," and she's like, "You're so ungrateful." So that's in here. That scene is pretty much in here in like the retelling of it, and I was like, yay! I was like, more Beauty and the Beast stuff. And like I say, although this is my least favourite of the 3 of the book, or 4 of the books, 5 of the books, it is still so good to go back into that world and see the Beauty and the Beast side of it. Then she goes off and she goes to meet the SOOOOO, and I'm going to read you what it looks like. So it's a thin, tall, veiled figure in dark, tattered robes. It's hunched back, facing me. I could count the hard knobs of its spine poking through the thin fabric. Spindly, scabby grey arms sprawled with the snare of yellow, cracked fingernails. It slowly turned towards me. The dark veil draped over its bald head blowing in a phantom breeze. A face that looked like it had been crafted from a dry, withdrawn bone. Its skin either forgotten or discarded. A lipless mouth with 2 long teeth that howled by blackened gums. Slitted holes for nostrils and eyes. Eyes that had nothing more than swirling pits of milky white. The white of death, the white of sickness, the white of clean-picked corpses. I love the surreal. I love the girl power. I love the whole, like, Feyre goes off and asks Surreal these questions, and Feyre's got the Surreal's back, Surreal's got Feyre's back. We don't know this right now, but I just love the friendship that they're going to have. And there's memes I've seen, there's gifs and everything all over, like, Bookstagram, and I love the Surreal. It's getting me excited because the Surreal's got all your secrets, all the things you want to know, and he helps us. So when I'm getting excited, like I put in here, like, went to meet the Surreal, I'm getting excited, like I'm loving this. So the Surreal does this thing where it's like, with its fingers, like, I don't know, it's like some weird corpsey kind of like skeleton spirity thing, and it's just really cool. So she asks questions and finds out that Tamlin is a High Lord of Prythian, the High Lord of the Spring Court. It explains about the spring, the summer, the winter. But the Surreal says something very important, and that is to stay with the High Lord. And the fact that the High Lord will keep her safe. Safe from what though? Safe from the curse, safe from her, safe from Prythian, safe from the Surreal, safe from the Naga, safe from what? Like, why do I have to stay with the High Lord? And the Surreal also tells us what the King of Highburn wants, what the the King of Highborn is like. So for some time now, the King of Highborn has found himself unhappy with the treaty with the other ruling High Fae of the world made with you humans long ago. He resents that he was forced to sign it, to let his mortal slaves go, to remain confined to the damp green isle at the edge of the world. And so, 100 years ago, he dispatched his most trusted and loyal commanders, his deadly warriors, remnants of the ancient armies that had once sailed to the continent to wage such a brutal war. I can't talk, I'm getting too excited. All of them hungry and vile as he. As spies and courtiers and lovers, they infiltrated the various High Fae courts and kingdoms and empires around the world for 50 years, and when they had gathered enough information, he made his plan. But nearly 5 decades ago, one of his commanders disobeyed him, the Deceiver, and we are not alone. So just as the Surreal was about to release that tiny little bit of information, the Naga come along, and Feyre has to save the Surreal, run for her life, and then that's when we get to the Beauty and the Beast moment where Tamlin comes and saves her, and it's like Beauty and the Beast moment. So yes, it's like stay with the High Lord. Who's the High Lord that she has to stay with? I don't know. Yes I do, but I'm not going to tell you because that's a big spoiler. So I've only got one moment in here that's, well, I've got 2 actually. When was my last one? Oh, so I've got 2 moments in here that I've put that I've absolutely loved. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a romantic thing, but it's something that I've seen as love, and that was the library scene because of the Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's like, yeah, I love it. But also the fact that he saved her, and he's her High Lord that she has to stay with. So yeah, that was one of my big moments. One of my big moments that I loved so far from these chapters, where he like comes in and saves her, because she's like, he came to save me. Like, he came to save me. Not Lucy listening and going, oh, here you are. He actually came to save her. Like, wherever he was, he came to save her. Enjoyed those 50 pages, and I'm looking forward to reading the next 50 and seeing you there. But I can see why Feyre and myself did like Tamlin. There is a lot in here, because he's the only one we know so far. He's the one that's basically saved her from her miserable life and given her a lot more. So yeah, that was good.